All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Speaking of Zane, February the 4th, 2024. Good to have you all in there for the 267th edition of Speaking of Zane. We started on August the 5th of 2018, quite a while ago, over 2 years after Zane passed. Got this idea on a Sunday night. Sundays have become interesting days in our lives. That's the day Zane passed. We found him on a Sunday afternoon. We typically cook a roast on Sunday. So Sundays are interesting here around the house. But we started this Speaking of Zane on a Sunday quite innocently. I just felt like talking about him. And I turned the camera on Facebook and just started talking about him. And then here we are, 267 episodes later, and we're still talking about him. And I hope to never stop talking about him. And it has grown to so much more than just speaking Zane's name to keep his memory alive. We've expanded it to some other things, talk about different military and veterans matters and organizations and things like that. And then, of course, most recently, we've incorporated talking about Zane's brother, Tyler, who we lost in September. So that's why we do this every Sunday night. But it's good to have you guys joining us along the way. I'll tell you, I've often said, I've never gone to a therapist. I probably could use it, but this is therapeutic for me to talk about him and to have you guys gather and listen about the different things that we do together. But good to have you all in there. Let's see who we have in here. Lori is in here. Steve Shirley's in here. Jimbo Miller's in here. Carl and Peggy Keyhouse are in here. Daryl is in here. My dad is in here. Terry Bass is in here. Terry and I go all the way back to tech school. Actually, Terry, if you remember, 3382nd, I believe it was, at Keesler. It's my first memory of Terry Bass. Kathy Cobb's in there. Hey, Kathy and Gordon, good to have you in there. And my Aunt Mary's in there. Hey, Aunt Mary. All right, good crowd tonight. Thank you all again for joining and listening. Yeah, 1981, I guess you're right, Terry, 1981. And we've seen each other a few times over the years. Of course, at various reunions and things like that. But okay, well, what do we got going here at the fabulous McDonald Estate and Insane Asylum? Kind of a typical week, although I don't have a class that I'm teaching at the moment. We completed them a couple weeks ago, so I'm readjusting my work week that I don't have to spend about 4 hours every day with a group of young professionals trying to teach them how to be like me or better than me. Um, so I'm adjusting to that, working on vetting another group of 20 that will start this summer. So that's keeping me quite busy at work. But Lori and I took a day off. Lori and I drove down to Savannah. It's the first time in quite some time that we've gone to Savannah. And hey, Ken's in there. So we drove down to Savannah on Tuesday, and I'll tell you what, the weather was beautiful and the traffic was beautiful. Very uncommon for the traffic to be beautiful in Atlanta. But we left the house at noon and we were in Savannah at the hotel at 4:30. And we live, 50 miles north of the airport, but smooth sailing the whole way. Fortunately, my truck has a big gas tank and Lori has a big bladder. So we didn't have to stop. We just, and then on the way back, Wednesday, same thing. Got in the car, got in the truck, and 4.5 hours, we were back home. Doesn't always happen that way with Atlanta traffic, but it did this week. But we had a fantastic visit. Went Tuesday, met Tyler's two children and their mom, Raina, for dinner at one of our favorite Savannah places, Cancun. And Tyler used to take them there, Raina was telling me. But they're just absolutely adorable. Zaylee, whose name is an adaptation of Zane. Tyler and Raina decided to name her uh, after Zane. And she is 7, same age as our grandson Everett, whose middle name is Zane. So kudos to Zane's siblings for honoring him with carrying on his name like we do here on Speaking of Zane. But and then Colby is 4 and just as cute as can be. Looks a lot like his daddy, except he has brown hair. And they don't really remember us. It took a little bit for him to warm up to us a little bit. Colby got he warmed up a little bit quicker than Zaylee did. Oh yeah, Colby's 5. I'm sorry, Colby's 5. Colby Thomas. Thomas is Tyler's middle name, Colby Thomas. But it was great to spend time with them and Raina for dinner. I'd love to get down there and spend a whole lot more time with them, but we plan to bring them up here for Tyler's um, ceremony, which is still a little bit up in the air. We're waiting. We have a critical attendee that it's so critical that he be there that we're willing to move the dates. And I'm waiting to hear back from him. His name is David. And as soon as we know from David which day that he's able to make it, we will certainly let everybody know. There's my cousin Cindy in there. Hey, cousin. Yeah, so we had a great time with them, and we stayed the night because I went down for. You guys know, some of you know that I've been involved in the restoration of a B-17 flying fortress called the City of Savannah at the Mighty 8th Air Force Museum, actually called the National Museum of the Mighty 8th Air Force now. But I've been involved in that since 2009 and when Zane was in Iraq. And they had a celebration luncheon um, to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the B-17 arriving at the museum from the Smithsonian. So it's kind of cool. And our original project manager, who I adore, Jerry McLaughlin, who wrote a book about our restoration project. You could find that on Amazon. He was speaking because there's a lot of new volunteers that have come along that don't remember the beginning when we got started, and he was able to tell the beginning and how it all transpired. And actually, I was in the presentation, didn't even know I would be, but I'm in the book too. But one of the first publicity items, um, and this was in 2011, we had got an amateur radio station installed in the radio compartment along with period correct radio gear, and we operated the radio compartment, and it was the first sort of part of the B-17 that was restored. And there was a big media day, and we made radio contact with another radio club in Barksdale, Louisiana, that has a B-17, and it was just kind of a fun thing there. But I was in his presentation there, and but it was good to those guys. I hadn't seen a lot of those guys for a couple years now, and a lot of new guys there that have come along. Unfortunately, a lot of old guys, not a lot of young guys. They need to get some more young blood in there to carry this thing on. But they're still working on that B-17 and fine tuning a bunch of things. And then there's a fuselage of a B-24 that they're in the process now of restoring, and I think we're going to put some radio gear in there too. But anyway, so that's why I was down there for that. And before the 15th anniversary celebration, there was an author that was there. They often have authors there come and talk, and there was an author from Cape Girardeau, Missouri, by the name of Terry Irwin. And Terry wrote a book. Took him 30 years in the making, but he wrote this book about his father-in-law, who was a B-17 radio operator, and his name was Sergeant Don Dinwiddie. And anyway, so Terry Irwin was there to share the story of his father-in-law and talk about his book. And I picked up a copy. You can see there. So far, I'm a couple chapters in, and it's just incredible accounts of the period there. And Sergeant Dinwiddie's War, it's called. I won't give too much away, but this particular crew ended up being shot down over Belgium, and the whole story incorporates some of the Belgian resistance and POW camp and stuff like that. But I'm enjoying reading this book, as I do these kinds of books. But we heard from him, and he signed it for me. Got an opportunity to chat with him a little bit. But interesting guy. He's a pilot and a school teacher by trade, in his 70s, but just a really good guy. So that was fun. And then after that, oh, by the way, so I get there and I know all the radio guys or all the museum guys and stuff that I've worked with there. But I go to sit down, and there's this couple sitting there from our church in Savannah, Southside Baptist Church, Mike and Pat Brown. And so I sat with them and had lunch with them. They just came out to hear the story, but that was just an odd happenstance there. But it was good to see them. All right. Yep. Then we drove back that afternoon. We finished up at the museum. Lori was waiting outside for me. She went and did some things while I was in there, and she was waiting for me about 2:30. We got gas and back to Atlanta. So it was a good trip. Well, let's see what else is going on. You guys know I've lost a lot of weight over the last couple of years, but I do a lot of walking now too. And oh, there's my buddy Doc Collier. Hey, Doc, good to see you. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow in Orlando. More about that in a minute. But yeah, so we've got this challenge going at work right now. Step challenge, a walking challenge, and I'm always in for those things, and because I like to beat the younger guys and gals. But anyway, so we're doing this step challenge. So I've been ramping up my walking just a little bit to try to stay. We've got 381 participants in the challenge right now. And the challenge is to walk from Miami to Key Largo. and I forget how many steps it is, like 260,000 or something. But there's 381. You wouldn't let me go where? What? Um, yeah. So, um, what was I saying? Walking. So there's 381 participants. I'm at 47th place right now of 381 with 39,000 steps. So I'm going to do my best. There's some folks that are really far ahead there that do a lot of walking, but and on my walks, I'm reading or listening to an outstanding book right now. If some of you may have heard of this book, but um, I've had the book for a while, but have never read through it. But I got the book on Audible so I can listen on my walks, and it's called Extreme Ownership, and it's a book by a Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. You may have heard him. He has his own company now where he consults and advises business, and he's kind of a motivational speaker. Um, anyway, really good book if you enjoy that kind of thing. Extreme Ownership, where he takes the lessons of being a SEAL commander and applies many of those lessons to the business world, so and leadership in general. But having a good time listening to that when I walk. I'm just about done with it. It's taken me just a few days. All right. Well, let's see. Speaking of the B-17, I see Carl said, yeah, Carl made contact with me when I had the radio station running one time, and actually, I don't think I talked to Carl. I think it was one of my other operators there, Carl, if I remember right. We were switching in and out, but anyway, um, so some of you may have seen this. Speaking of B-17s, there's a I may have mentioned this last week. There's a miniseries going right now. It's on Apple TV called Masters of the Air, and it's all about the 8th Air Force in World War II. And it's like 9 episodes, maybe something like that. Um, but the first two hit last week, and then the third hit this Friday. So I watched that on Friday night. Wow, it was about the mission to Regensburg. I think it was the ball bearing factory where they went to Regensburg and then they recovered down in Algeria. Just a power packed, action packed episode there. So look forward to the next one. I think they're staggered about a week or so apart, if I remember. But anyway, Masters of the Air. Okay, yeah, and like Doc was mentioning, we're heading to Orlando for work. Um, see, everybody's arriving during the day tomorrow, um, and we'll be working all day Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then fly back home Friday. So I'll get to see a lot of my colleagues over this next week, and we have a um, on Wednesday and Thursday mornings. We're going to have. I've got the veterans at our company are all going to gather for breakfast. So I'll get to meet a lot of fellow vets at the company that I've some, many of them I know and have met, but a lot of them, we have a big company, 10,000 employees, I haven't met face to face. So that'd be kind of fun. All right. Well, let's see. What do we got? Hat of the week, hat of the week, hat of the week. So it was probably Ken or Daryl that already guessed about the hat of the week. The hat of the week always has to do with something that's going on around here. And since I went to the Mighty Eighth, this is my City of Savannah ball cap I've had for a dozen years, I guess. But good stuff. All right. Well, let's see. This week in military history. Well, I only pulled one item because this week no other military history item even compares. And that is February the 3rd, 1961 was when the looking glass was initiated, and many or most of us on here have some connection to the looking glass and shaped the formative years of our lives without a doubt. But fascinating story about the looking glass and continuous airborne alert 24/7, 365 for 29 years till the fall of the Soviet Union. And happy to have been a part of it. I'll tell you, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I didn't realize the gravity of what we were in the middle of in the moment. We were doing our job, patching circuits and fixing boxes and stuff. And sometimes it was hard to step back and realize what you were actually a part of. Um, but yeah, that was February the 3rd, 1961. And then my piece of that didn't come along until 1981 when I arrived at tech school and started to learn all about PAX and then eventually up to Offutt, where I would fly on the looking glass. Good stuff with many of you who I consider brothers and sisters. Okay. All right. How about that? Ken's got a good one. Ken has got a good one. 34 years ago today, Ken arrived at F.E. Warren, Wyoming. Isn't that Wyoming, Ken? Yeah, I believe so. Missile fields all through there. Ken was a missile officer. So we had a tangential relationship. But Ken, thank you for doing that. I know that was a very interesting career field and a very critical role there for sure in the nuclear triad. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, let's see. I know we had some veteran cemetery visits this week. We have a challenge for those who may be viewing for the first time. We have a challenge where if any of us visit a military member or veteran at a cemetery, we call that out. And I know my dad visits my mom at Evergreen. And Daryl, I saw you made a visit today, I believe, to Jefferson Barracks. I know the weather has warmed up quite a bit there in the St. Louis metro since I visited a couple weeks ago when it was 2 degrees. So I think you guys have gotten up in the 60s. But I saw you made a visit out there. I'm counting 4 visits for the week. And that puts us at 1,081 since we started tracking. And Daryl, bless his heart, quoted me today that when he visits Jefferson Barracks, it's his least favorite place and his most favorite place. That's the way I feel about it when I go to Georgia National. I can't figure out a better way to describe the emotions, and you wish you weren't there, but you're so glad you're there. It's a hard thing to reconcile for sure, but it's the best way I could express it. But Daryl, thank you for sharing that. Okay, yeah, we had some warm weather this past week, and then today I had to get my walk in early because I knew it was going to rain. But we didn't probably get out of the 40s today when we were in the 60s just yesterday. But that's it. That's the way it is up here in Atlanta. Okay, well, how about some Thank a Vet challenge? I didn't see too many updates. I know that Daryl actually, Daryl, I'm curious where you made this connection. Daryl met an active duty Air Force sergeant somewhere this week. So how about that? Ken's piping in here. 3 Osceola County Sheriff deputies. Okay. So we can add that for Ken. Get our numbers up a little bit. Add 3 more to that. Okay. So Daryl had an active duty Air Force sergeant. Ken had the 3 sheriff's deputies, Ken and Janet. And then I had a Navy vet, young lady, Sarah, at work. that I interact with periodically. Sarah was in the Navy. And then I mentioned I'll have quite a few more this next week as we're all gathering together in Orlando, or not all, but some of us. So if I add all those up, 5 thank yous this week, we're sitting at 2,458. So how about that? Thank you guys for playing along with that. And it's not like we're hunting veterans, but when we see them at the Lowe's or at the Home Depot or at the Kroger or at the post office, we're just acknowledging them and tell them thank you and that we appreciate them. Okay, Steve's jumping in here. Let me get Steve's documented here and we'll total them up. 6 police officers. Now, Steve and his family are hockey fans. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I'm not surprised that you met these folks at a hockey game. So if I add Steve's 10, that gives us 15 and makes it 2468. So getting closer to the 2,500 mark. So good work, gang. Good work. That's an understatement. Yeah, he's even got his grandkids loving hockey, don't you, Steve-O? Oh, that's good stuff. I love it. I love it. All right, Ken's challenge is out there. I think that's doable, Ken. April 1st. All right. Well, I'm gonna rack some up this week, as I mentioned. So look forward to next Sunday night, giving a new total there. Okay. Well, what do we got here in the way of activities or updates for these organizations that let me read through some of these organizations just to remind you. Reach Across America, you guys all play along with that. There's an organization in St. Louis called Focus Marines, and I've had an opportunity to become aware of. Very similar to my Warriors Place. VetTix, our friend Linda and fellow Looking Glass crew member Linda and her husband, man, they take advantage of VetTix. And I have a couple of times. VetTix. You can get free tickets to all kind of sporting activities and concerts and all kind of stuff. Linda has figured out the code for that for sure. Till Valhalla Project, Lori contributes there and is affiliated, and through the Till Valhalla Project, she was able to get Kelly a very nice plaque honoring her son Corey. Let's see, Folds of Honor, Georgia Run for the Fallen, Missing in America Project, Running to Honor 5Ks coming up again in July. Can't wait for that. Continuing the Mission. Oh yeah, I meant to. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned this, but I got a friend who's a colleague of mine called Joel, and Joel is affiliated with this organization in North Carolina called Continuing the Mission, and they train service dogs. And every year, Joel makes his contribution in Zane's name, and I get a very nice letter from them. So, Joel, if you're ever listening, thank you for that. Let's see, Cherokee County Homeless Veterans Organization. They got some things going on here all the time. Let's see, of course, My Warriors Place. Corporal Dagan Page Foundation. You guys know that I'm a colleague of Dagan's father, Greg, there in Omaha. And let's see, Simplify Bar and Grill here in town. By the way, Dan, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Lori and I haven't been yet, but they moved into a new location, a much bigger space, I'm told. It's like an old Applebee's or an old Chili's or something. And now they've got a lot more room for the gatherings and memorabilia and all kind of stuff. So we'll have to get back over to Simplify Bar and Grill. Actually, the new name of the franchise is called Rally Point Bar and Grill. They broadened their name to be a little more inclusive to all of the branches, and they've got a location down near Fort Gordon in Augusta now as well. But how about that? Okay, carry the load, carry the load. We've Lori and I have hooked up with them the last 2 or 3 years, and as we get closer to that, I'll let you all know about it because they walk or run, bike like 5 or 6 different routes across the country, all gathering ultimately in Dallas, where they have a big uh, um, Memorial Day celebration. But carry the load. I see that they've already started their registration, so I'll get some more information on that. All right. Let's see. Last week I mentioned we didn't have the names last week, but I did mention that we had lost 3 service members in northeast Jordan, I believe, near Syria. And let me see if I can share. We do know now who the 3 are, and they're all Army reservists from right here in Georgia, um, out of a unit out of Fort Benning, which is called Fort Moore now. But Sergeant William Jerome Rivers was 46 from Carrollton, Georgia. Specialist Kennedy Sanders was 24 from Waycross, Georgia. And Specialist Brianna Moffett was just 23 from Savannah, Georgia. So they deserve to be honored and their names never forgotten for that sacrifice they made there. And just a terrible tragedy indeed. And part of some of the retaliation that's going on now included, oddly enough, we have the USS Eisenhower battle group over there. The Eisenhower is the carrier. And I have a colleague at work whose son is an air traffic controller on board. And they've been involved in a lot of the activities going on there. But this most recent strikes in mostly in Iraq, 30 some odd strikes. Some were from United Kingdom forces, but there were some strikes from B-1 bombers out of Dyess Air Force Base, Texas. So flying all the way from Dyess, and they actually may have flown from Diego Garcia, which they've done quite a bit over the last few decades, but they showed pictures of them coming and going out of Dyess. But anyway, my point is we got all kind of skirmishes and activities going on there. Keep all those folks in your thoughts and prayers for sure. Okay, well, don't forget if you come across a crusty old veteran like Steve Shirley, I mean, like many of us during your travels during the week, tell them appreciate them or stop them and say, hey, where did you serve? And you never know what kind of conversation that might strike. And check on your buddies too. I tell you what, you don't know what people are dealing with, what people are going through. Check on your buddies. I tell you, my friend Carrie is good at that. You saw she posted something today, just doing a buddy check. But hey, if you don't check, how do you know how people are doing? My buddy Jerry Parker, who now is affiliated with the Cobra Ball, called me last week, and we had a good catch up. But yeah, do that. Check on your buddies. And remember what Ronald Reagan said: "We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone." Wow. Powerful. We can't help everyone. Don't let the fact that you can't help everyone stop you from helping someone, is the message there. But all right. Well, hey, I sure appreciate you guys gathering around the computer again on Sunday night. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next Sunday night for the, what did I say, 268th edition of Speaking of Zane, where we keep his memory alive by speaking his name. Have a great week, everybody. Make it count, and we'll see you Sunday.